Admiral Crixtal stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive viewing screen. He had been exploring space for over 200 years. In that time, he had seen many strange things, but nothing had prepared him for what his sensors were showing him today. "Admiral," called out Lieutenant Velnara from her station, "we are getting readings that make no sense." Crixtal walked over to look at her screen. The numbers dancing across the display made his blood run cold. Something was out there in the darkness of space. Something big. Something that should not exist. "Show me," he said. The main screen changed to show a long-range scan of the area ahead of them. At first, Crixtal saw nothing but empty space and distant stars. Then Velnara highlighted a section of the scan. There it was. The object was huge. Bigger than any ship the Zephyrian Empire had ever built. Their largest warships were already the size of small cities. This thing was even bigger. But size was not what worried Crixtal the most. "Look at these energy readings," Velnara said, pointing at another part of her screen. "This ship is putting out more power than our entire fleet combined." Crixtal felt his heart skip a beat. The Zephyrian Empire ruled the galaxy because they had the best technology. Their ships were faster, stronger, and more advanced than anything else in known space. For 3,000 years, no one had even come close to matching their power. "That cannot be right," he said. "Check your instruments." Velnara worked at her controls for several minutes. When she looked up, her face was pale. "Admiral, I have checked everything 3 times. The readings are correct. That ship is real and it is incredibly powerful." Crixtal ordered his science officer to take a closer look. Commander Zektul was the best scientist in the fleet. If anyone could figure out what they were looking at, it would be him. "This is impossible," Zektul said after studying the data for an hour. "According to our scans, this ship is made from materials that should not exist. The hull appears to be constructed from some kind of metal we have never seen before. It is incredibly strong and seems to absorb energy rather than reflect it." "What about the power source?" Crixtal asked. Zektul shook his head. "That is even more strange. We cannot identify how this ship generates power. It does not match any known energy signature in our databases. Whatever is powering that vessel uses technology we do not understand." The Admiral felt a chill run down his spine. The Zephyrian Empire had explored most of the galaxy. They had encountered hundreds of different species and thousands of different technologies. Their databases contained information about every known form of science and engineering. If their computers could not identify this ship's technology, it meant they were dealing with something completely new. "Admiral," Velnara called out again. "The object is moving." Crixtal turned to look at the screen. The massive ship was indeed moving. But it was not moving like any ship he had ever seen. Normal ships in space moved in straight lines or gentle curves. This ship was changing direction rapidly, almost like it was dancing through space. "How fast is it going?" he asked. "That is the problem, Admiral," Velnara replied. "According to our sensors, it should be impossible for something that large to move that quickly. The forces involved should tear the ship apart. But the ship was not falling apart. If anything, it seemed to be moving even faster." Crixtal watched in amazement as the vessel performed maneuvers that would crush any normal crew from the acceleration forces alone. "Sir," Commander Zektul said quietly, "I am picking up something else. The ship appears to have weapons. What kind of weapons? I am not sure. They do not match anything in our databases either. But Admiral, based on the energy patterns I am seeing, these weapons could be incredibly dangerous." Crixtal made a decision that would save his fleet. "All ships retreat immediately. Maximum speed, Admiral." Velnara looked confused. "You heard me. Get us out of here. Now." As his fleet turned and began to accelerate away from the mysterious ship, Crixtal took one last look at the readings. The vessel was still there, still moving in ways that should be impossible, but now it seemed to be heading in a different direction. It was moving toward the heart of the Zephyrian Empire. "Send a message to the Imperial Council," Crixtal ordered. "Priority 1, emergency status." "What should the message say, Admiral?" Crixtal thought for a moment. How could he explain what he had seen? How could he tell the most powerful government in the galaxy that they might have found something stronger than them? Tell them we have discovered a ship of unknown origin. Tell them it appears to be more advanced than anything we have ever encountered, and tell them it is heading toward our territory. The communications officer worked quickly to send the message. As the fleet continued to retreat, Crixtal kept watching the long-range sensors. The mysterious ship was still there, still moving with impossible grace and speed. "Admiral, Zektul said, studying his instruments. I am detecting something else. The ship appears to have markings on its hull. Can you read them? I am trying to enhance the image now. After a few minutes, Zektul looked up with a puzzled expression. The markings appear to be some kind of writing, but it is unlike any language in our databases. Show me. The main screen displayed a close-up image of the ship's hull. Crystal could see strange symbols painted on the dark metal. The writing was angular and harsh, completely different from the flowing scripts used by most civilized species. Can you translate any of it? I am trying, Admiral. The computer is running comparisons with all known languages. After several minutes, the computer made a sound indicating it had found something. Sir, the computer has identified some possible matches. It appears to say something like UNSC Infinity, followed by other symbols we cannot translate. Krixtal frowned. UNSC, what could that mean? Unknown, Admiral. But there are other markings as well. Some kind of bird symbol and geometric patterns. The Admiral studied the image carefully. The ship looked like nothing he had ever seen before. Where Zephyrian ships were smooth and elegant, this vessel was angular and brutal. It looked like it had been built for war. Sir, the communications officer called out. Message sent to the Imperial Council. We should receive a reply within a few hours. Good. Krixtal continued to stare at the screen. Continue monitoring that ship. I want to know everything about it. As his fleet moved further away from the mysterious vessel, Krixtal could not shake the feeling that everything was about to change. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had been the dominant force in the galaxy. They had conquered or absorbed every species they had encountered. Their technology was supreme, their military undefeated. But now, somewhere in the darkness of space, there was something new. Something that might be even more powerful than the Empire itself. The thought terrified him. Hours later, as his fleet continued its retreat, Krixtal received a reply from the Imperial Council. The message was brief but clear. Return to the capital immediately for emergency briefing. As his ships jumped to faster-than-light speed, Krixtal took one last look at the long-range sensors. The mysterious ship was gone, vanished into the depths of space. But he knew it was still out there somewhere, heading toward Empire territory. Whatever it was, whoever built it, they would soon find out if the Zephyrian Empire was still the most powerful force in the galaxy. The Imperial Council chamber was filled with worried voices. Emperor Zarthul sat on his crystal throne, listening to the heated discussions around him. The enormous room, carved from a single piece of purple stone, had seen many important meetings over the centuries, but none as urgent as this one. Counselor Vexara, the Empire's top scientist, stood at the center of the room. She held a datapad containing Admiral Krixtal's report. Her normally calm face showed deep concern. Your Majesty, she said, bowing slightly, I have studied the data from our deep space reconnaissance fleet. What they found is extremely troubling. Emperor Zarthul leaned forward in his throne. He was over 400 years old and had ruled the Empire for most of that time. In all those years, he had never seen his advisors look so worried. Explain, he commanded. Vexara activated a holographic projector in the center of the room. The image of the mysterious ship appeared, floating in the air above them. Even as a hologram, the vessel looked intimidating. Its dark hull and angular design made it look like a weapon of war. This ship appears to be larger than our biggest dreadnoughts, Vexara continued. But size is not what concerns me most. Look at these energy readings. The hologram changed to show various charts and graphs. The other council members gasped as they saw the numbers. This is impossible, declared General Morgath, the Empire's military commander. No ship can generate that much power. Our best engineers have been working for centuries to improve our energy systems. Nothing we have built comes close to these readings. I thought the same thing, Vexara replied. So I had our computer systems run the analysis 50 times. The results are always the same. This ship is incredibly advanced. Minister Kelvak, who was in charge of intelligence gathering, spoke up from his seat. Do we know who built it? What species are we dealing with? That is where things become even more strange, Vexara said. She changed the hologram to show the markings on the ship's hull. We found writing on the vessel, but it does not match any language in our databases. Emperor Zarthul studied the strange symbols. The Zephyrian Empire had encountered hundreds of different species over the millennia. Their databases contained information about every known form of communication in the galaxy. You are saying this is completely new? He asked. Yes, Your Majesty. Our computers have never seen anything like this writing before. However, we were able to make out some of the symbols. The ship appears to be called UNSC Infinity based on what we can translate. UNSC, repeated the Emperor slowly. What could that mean? We do not know, sir. But there are other markings as well. Some kind of bird symbol and geometric patterns that suggest a highly organized military structure. General Morgath stood up from his chair. He was a large, imposing figure who had led the Empire's armies for over a century. Your Majesty, I recommend we send a full battle fleet to investigate. If this is a threat to the Empire, we should deal with it immediately. Wait, Councillor Vexara said, holding up her hand. There is more you need to know. I studied the ship's construction in detail. What I found is disturbing. She changed the hologram again. Now it showed a detailed analysis of the ship's hull and internal structure. This vessel appears to be built using not one, but dozens of different technologies. Look here. She pointed to different sections of the ship. Energy weapons, kinetic systems, some kind of exotic matter manipulation, and what appears to be dimensional engineering. All integrated into a single design. The council chamber fell silent. Even Emperor Zarthel looked stunned. That should be impossible, Minister Kelvak said quietly. Most species specialize in one or two forms of technology. The Catharan Empire uses energy weapons. The Mortex Confederation relies on kinetic systems. No one uses everything at once. Exactly, Vexara agreed. But this ship does. Whoever built this understands multiple forms of science and engineering that took our empire thousands of years to develop, and they have somehow combined them all into one vessel. Emperor Zarthel stood up from his throne. The movement caused everyone in the chamber to fall silent. Are you telling me, he said slowly, that we have encountered a species that might be more advanced than us? I am afraid that is exactly what I am saying, Your Majesty. The Emperor began to pace back and forth in front of his throne. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had been the most powerful force in the galaxy. They had conquered countless worlds and absorbed dozens of species into their civilization. Their technology was supreme, their military undefeated. The idea that someone might be more advanced than them was almost unthinkable. General Morgath, the Emperor said finally, what is the current status of our fleets? We have over 10,000 ships spread across the Empire, Your Majesty. Our main battle fleet consists of 500 dreadnoughts, each capable of destroying an entire planet. We also have thousands of smaller vessels for reconnaissance and patrol duties. And you believe this single ship could be a threat to our entire fleet? General Morgath hesitated before answering. Based on the energy readings, Your Majesty, this one ship might be more powerful than several of our dreadnoughts combined. The Emperor stopped pacing. The thought that a single vessel could match multiple Empire warships was terrifying. Minister Kelvak, he said, turning to the intelligence chief, I want you to mobilize every spy and informant we have. Search every corner of the galaxy for information about this UNSC and whoever built this ship. Yes, Your Majesty. I will begin immediately. Councillor Vexara, continue analyzing the data. I want to know everything about this vessel's technology. Find out how it works and if we can duplicate it. Of course, Your Majesty. Emperor Zarthel returned to his throne. The crystal seat had been carved by his ancestors over 1,000 years ago. It was meant to symbolize the eternal power of the Zephyrian Empire, but now looking at the hologram of the mysterious ship, he wondered if that power might not be eternal after all. There is one more thing, Your Majesty, Vexara said hesitantly. What is it? The ship's course. According to Admiral Krikstal's report, it was heading directly toward our territory, but it was not moving like a normal vessel. It was performing maneuvers that should be impossible for something that large. What kind of maneuvers? Rapid direction changes, sudden acceleration, complex flight patterns. The forces involved should tear any normal ship apart, but this vessel seemed unaffected. Emperor Zarthel felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying this ship can move in ways our vessels cannot? That appears to be the case, Your Majesty. Whatever propulsion system they are using, it is far beyond anything we have developed. The Emperor looked around the chamber at his advisors. These were the smartest, most experienced leaders in the Empire. They had guided the Zephyrian civilization to dominance over the galaxy. But now they all looked worried and uncertain. Your Majesty, General Morgath said carefully, what are your orders? Emperor Zarthul thought for a long moment. He had spent his entire life believing that the Zephyrian Empire was supreme. The idea that they might have found their equals or worse, their superiors, was difficult to accept. But the evidence was clear. Somewhere in space, there was a ship that challenged everything they thought they knew about technology and power. "Double the patrols along our borders," he commanded. "I want every system monitored. If this ship or others like it enter our territory, I want to know immediately." "Yes, Your Majesty." "And prepare our finest diplomatic team. If we encounter this species again, we will try to make peaceful contact first." "And if they refuse to communicate peacefully?" asked General Morgath. Emperor Zarthul looked at the hologram of the mysterious ship one more time. Its dark hull and weapon systems made it clear that whoever built it understood war very well. "Then we will discover if the Zephyrian Empire is still the most powerful force in the galaxy," he said grimly. Ambassador Quindar adjusted his ceremonial robes as he stood on the bridge of the diplomatic flagship. He had made first contact with over 30 different species during his long career. Each time, the process had followed the same pattern. The Empire would approach with offers of trade and friendship. The new species would be amazed by Zephyrian technology and eagerly join the Empire. Today felt different. "Ambassador," Captain Rathnall called from his position, "we have located the alien vessel. It is exactly where our scouts said it would be." Quindar looked at the main viewing screen. The mysterious ship hung in space like a dark metal mountain. Even from this distance, it looked dangerous. Its angular hull was covered with weapon systems and strange markings. "Are our escort ships ready?" Quindar asked. "Yes, sir. We have 12 battle cruisers positioned around us. They are prepared for any hostile action." Quindar nodded. Normally, he preferred to make first contact alone to show peaceful intentions. But this time, Emperor Zarthul had insisted on military protection. After seeing the intelligence reports about this ship's power, Quindar was grateful for the escort. "Open communication channels on all known frequencies," he commanded. The communications officer worked at his controls for several minutes. "Channels open, Ambassador. We are broadcasting on every frequency used by known galactic civilizations." Quindar stepped forward and began the standard first contact protocol. He spoke in the ancient diplomatic language that most species could understand. "Greetings, unknown vessel. I am Ambassador Quindar of the Zephyrian Empire. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly relations with your people." They waited. The alien ship remained silent. "Perhaps they do not understand our language," suggested the communications officer. "Try the mathematical greeting sequence," Quindar ordered. The officer sent out a series of mathematical formulas that any intelligent species should recognize. Prime numbers, basic equations, universal constants. It was a language that should work anywhere in the galaxy. Still no response. "Ambassador," Captain Rathnall said quietly. "The alien ship is moving." Quindar looked at the screen. The massive vessel was indeed changing position, but it was not moving away or trying to communicate. Instead, it was turning to face the Zephyrian fleet directly. "Sir," the sensor operator called out, "I am detecting energy buildups across the alien ship. It appears to be charging weapons." "Weapons?" Quindar felt his heart skip a beat. "But we are here peacefully. We have not shown any hostile intent." "The energy readings are increasing rapidly," the sensor operator reported. "Ambassador, I think they are preparing to attack." Captain Rathnall immediately took action. "All ships raise shields. Prepare defensive positions." The Zephyrian fleet quickly formed a protective formation around the diplomatic ship. Their energy shields flickered to life, creating barriers of pure force that could stop the most powerful weapons known to galactic science. "Ambassador," the communications officer said urgently, "I am picking up transmissions from the alien ship, but the language is completely unknown. Let me hear it." Strange sounds filled the bridge. The alien language was harsh and guttural, unlike the melodic tones of most civilized species. It sounded angry and aggressive. "Can you translate any of it?" Quindar asked. "I am trying, sir. The computer is running analysis now." Suddenly the alien ship moved, but it did not move like any vessel Quindar had ever seen. Instead of the slow, graceful movement of normal spacecraft, this ship accelerated instantly to incredible speed. "By the ancestors," Captain Rathnall whispered. "How is that possible?" The alien vessel was now racing directly toward the Zephyrian fleet. As it approached, weapon ports along its hull began to open. "Sir," the sensor operator called out in panic. "They are launching projectiles at us." "Projectiles?" Quindar was confused. "You mean energy weapons?" "No, sir. These appear to be solid metal objects, but they are moving incredibly fast." On the screen, Quindar could see tiny dots of light racing toward his fleet. They looked harmless compared to the massive energy beams that Zephyrian ships normally used in battle. "Activate point defense systems," Captain Rathnal ordered. Those projectiles should be easy to stop. The Zephyrian ships began firing their defensive weapons at the incoming projectiles. Beams of energy lanced out to intercept the metal objects. But something was wrong. "Captain," the weapons officer reported in confusion, "our defensive fire is not stopping them. These projectiles are moving too fast." Before anyone could respond, the first projectile hit the shield of a nearby battlecruiser. The result was devastating. The energy shield, which could normally stop planet-killing weapons, simply vanished. The metal projectile punched through the ship's hull like it was made of paper. Secondary explosions ripped through the vessel as its power systems overloaded. "Impossible," Captain Rathnal said in shock. "Our shields can stop anything." But the alien projectiles kept coming. One by one, they smashed through the Zephyrian defenses like they did not exist. 3 more battlecruisers were crippled in seconds. "Emergency retreat," Quindar shouted. "All ships withdraw immediately." The surviving Zephyrian vessels began to turn away from the alien ship. But their attacker was not finished. More projectiles lanced out from its weapon systems, chasing the fleeing fleet. "How are they targeting us so precisely?" Captain Rathnal demanded. "Those are just metal objects. They should not be able to change course." But the projectiles were somehow adjusting their flight paths to follow the Zephyrian ships. It was as if each piece of metal had its own guidance system. "Ambassador," the communications officer called out, "I am picking up more transmissions from the alien ship. The computer has managed to translate some words." "What does it say?" "The repeated word appears to be human." Quindar felt ice in his veins. "Human, what does that mean?" "Unknown, sir. But they keep saying it. And there are other words too. Something about engaging hostile forces and switching to combat protocols." The alien ship was still chasing them, still firing its impossible weapons. But now Quindar noticed something else. The vessel was not just shooting at them randomly. It was targeting specific systems on each Zephyrian ship. "They are aiming for our life support systems," Captain Rathnal realized with horror. "And our communication arrays. They want to disable us, not destroy us. Why would they do that?" "Unknown, sir. But this suggests they understand our technology well enough to know exactly where to hit us." Another battlecruiser lost power as one of the alien projectiles punched through its main reactor. The ship went dark, drifting helplessly in space. "Sir," the sensor operator reported, "the alien vessel is launching smaller craft. They appear to be some kind of boarding pods." Quindar watched in amazement as dozens of small ships detached from the alien vessel. They were heading directly for the disabled Zephyrian ships. "They mean to board our vessels," he said in disbelief. "Who does that? What civilized species still practices boarding actions?" But even as he watched, the small alien craft attached themselves to the hulls of the disabled ships. Moments later, cutting tools began slicing through the armor plating. "Ambassador," Captain Rathnal said urgently, "we need to leave now. If they capture our ships, they will learn everything about our technology." "Agreed. Maximum speed. Get us out of here." As the diplomatic fleet retreated at full speed, Quindar continued to monitor the alien ship. It had stopped chasing them and was now focused on the disabled Zephyrian vessels. The boarding action was proceeding with military precision. "Sir," the communications officer said quietly, "I intercepted another transmission from the alien ship." The computer translated it. What did it say? The officer looked pale as he read from his screen. It said, "Boarding action successful. Beginning technology analysis. New species designated as potential threat level 7. Recommend continued observation and tactical assessment." Quindar sank into his chair. In all his years of diplomatic service, nothing like this had ever happened. The Zephyrian Empire had always been the dominant force in any first contact situation. They were the ones who studied new species and decided their fate. But these humans had turned the tables completely. They had defeated a Zephyrian fleet with ease and were now studying captured technology like the Empire was just another primitive species to be catalogued. "Set course for the capital," Quindar ordered. "Emergency speed. The Emperor needs to know what we are dealing with." As his ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Quindar looked back at the battle site one last time. The alien vessel was still there, methodically examining the captured Zephyrian ships. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had lost a battle. And they had lost it badly. Worse yet, These humans had not even seemed to consider it a real fight. To them, it had just been a simple tactical exercise. They had treated the mighty Zephyrian fleet like a minor obstacle to be brushed aside. Quindar realized with growing horror that the Empire might have finally met its match. Or perhaps something even worse than that. They might have met their masters. Dr. Yilnith stared at the data scattered across her laboratory tables. Pieces of metal, energy readings, and computer files covered every available surface. For the past 3 weeks, she had been studying everything the Empire had learned about these mysterious humans. What she had discovered made her question everything she thought she knew about life in the galaxy. Computer, she said to the artificial intelligence that helped with her research. Display analysis of human homeworld conditions. A holographic image appeared in the center of the room. It showed a blue and green planet with white clouds swirling around it. At first glance, it looked beautiful and peaceful. This cannot be right, Dr. Yilnith muttered. Run the analysis again. The computer's calm voice filled the room. Analysis confirmed. Human homeworld designated as Earth shows extreme environmental conditions unsuitable for most known life forms. Dr. Yilnith studied the data more carefully. The planet's surface temperature ranged from far below freezing to dangerously hot. Massive storms swept across the continents with winds that could destroy buildings. The oceans contained predatory creatures larger than most starships. Show me atmospheric composition, she commanded. Human homeworld atmosphere contains 21% oxygen. This concentration is toxic to most galactic species. Dr. Yilnith sat down heavily in her chair. Most civilized species came from worlds with gentle climates and peaceful conditions. The idea that an intelligent race could evolve on such a dangerous planet was almost unthinkable. Computer, what about the gravitational field? Human homeworld gravity is approximately 1.2 times standard galactic norm. This would crush most known species. Dr. Yilnith shook her head in amazement. The humans had evolved on a world that would kill most other intelligent beings. No wonder they were so physically strong and adaptable. Show me biological analysis of human physiology. The hologram changed to display the anatomy of a human body. Dr. Yilnith had studied biology for over 2 centuries, but what she saw amazed her. These creatures are incredibly robust, she said to herself. Look at this bone structure, this muscle density. They are built for survival in extreme conditions. The computer provided additional information. Human biology shows adaptations for high-stress environments, enhanced healing capabilities, superior coordination, and remarkable endurance compared to most galactic species. But it was not just their physical abilities that impressed Dr. Yilnith. It was their psychological profile. Computer display analysis of human cultural and behavioral patterns. The hologram now showed charts and graphs based on intercepted human communications. What Dr. Yilnith saw made her blood run cold. These beings appear to view conflict as a natural state, she read from the data. They have a documented history of almost constant warfare among their own species. Confirmed, the computer replied. Human historical records show over 5,000 years of continuous military conflict. They appear to have fought wars using every conceivable method and technology. Dr. Yilnith stood up and began pacing around her laboratory. Most intelligent species developed peaceful societies once they reached a certain level of technology. War became unnecessary when resources could be obtained through trade and cooperation. But humans seemed to be different. They had somehow turned warfare into an art form. Show me human military technology, she commanded. The hologram displayed images of human weapons and vehicles. Dr. Yilnith gasped at what she saw. They use everything, she whispered. Energy weapons, kinetic systems, chemical explosives, biological agents, nuclear devices. They have even weaponized their own weather. Confirmed. Human military doctrine appears to emphasize adaptability and overwhelming force. They modify and improve captured enemy technology for their own use. This last point was what truly terrified Dr. Yilnith. The captured Zephyrian ships from the recent battle had been completely stripped of technology. The humans had taken apart every system and studied every component. Computer, what is the estimated time for humans to reverse engineer our technology? Based on observed human engineering capabilities, estimated time is 30 to 90 standard days. Dr. Yilnith felt sick. It had taken the Zephyrian Empire centuries to develop their advanced technology. These humans could apparently understand and copy it in a matter of months. Show me human space. Technology, she said weakly. The hologram displayed the interior of a human starship. Dr. Yilneth had expected to see advanced alien technology. Instead, she saw something that looked like it had been cobbled together from a dozen different sources. This makes no sense, she said. Their ships look like they were built from spare parts. Analysis suggests human engineering philosophy emphasizes practicality over elegance. They appear to use whatever materials and methods are most effective, regardless of aesthetic considerations. Dr. Yilneth looked more closely at the images. The human ship did indeed look crude compared to the sleek designs preferred by the Zephyrian Empire. But as she studied it, she began to understand the logic behind it. They built it to be repaired in the field, she realized. Look at these modular components. They can replace any damaged system with parts from other ships. Confirmed. Human ships appear designed for extended operations without support facilities. They can maintain and upgrade their vessels using salvaged materials. This was a completely different approach to space travel than anything Dr. Yilneth had seen before. Most galactic civilizations built beautiful, sophisticated ships that required specialized facilities for maintenance. Human ships were designed to keep fighting no matter what happened to them. Computer, show me human communication intercepts from the recent battle. The hologram displayed translated text from human radio transmissions. Dr. Yilneth read through them with growing alarm. Target acquired. Engaging unknown hostiles. Switching to combat protocols. Recommend tactical analysis of new species. The casual tone of the messages was what frightened her most. The humans had not seemed surprised or concerned about encountering the Zephyrian fleet. They had simply treated it as another combat exercise. Computer, what does this suggest about human military experience? Analysis indicates humans have extensive combat experience against multiple unknown enemies. They appeared to have developed standardized procedures for engaging new threats. Dr. Yilneth sat down again, feeling overwhelmed by what she had learned. The Zephyrian Empire had always assumed they were the most advanced military force in the galaxy. They had conquered or absorbed every species they had encountered. But the humans were something completely different. They were a species that had been forged by constant warfare on a death world. They had turned survival into a science and conflict into an art form. Computer, final question. Based on all available data, what is the threat assessment for human military capabilities? The computer was silent for a long moment, processing all the information. When it finally responded, its words confirmed Dr. Yilneth's worst fears. Threat assessment. Critical. Human military capabilities appear to exceed Zephyrian Empire standards in multiple categories. Recommendation. Avoid direct military confrontation. Seek diplomatic resolution or strategic withdrawal. Dr. Yilneth looked around her laboratory one more time. All the data, all the evidence pointed to the same conclusion. The Zephyrian Empire had finally encountered a species that might be stronger than them, but it was worse than that. The humans did not just have better technology. They had a completely different approach to existence itself. Where other species sought peace and prosperity, humans seemed to thrive on challenge and conflict. They were not just another advanced civilization. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. They were a species of warriors who had somehow turned the brutality of their homeworld into a galactic advantage. Dr. Yilneth began composing her report for the Imperial Council. She knew her words would cause panic among the Empire's leadership. For the first time in 3,000 years, they would have to admit that they might not be the strongest force in the galaxy. The age of unchallenged Zephyrian dominance was ending. The age of humanity was about to begin, and Dr. Yilneth was not sure the rest of the galaxy was ready for what that would mean. Emperor Zarthul sat alone in his private chambers, staring out at the stars through the massive crystal windows. The report from Dr. Yilneth lay on his desk, its contents more terrifying than any nightmare he had ever imagined. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had ruled the galaxy without question. They had conquered hundreds of worlds and absorbed dozens of species. Their technology was supreme, their military undefeated, their dominion absolute. Now, everything had changed. A soft chime indicated someone was requesting entry to his chambers. "Come," the Emperor called. General Morgath entered, his usually confident demeanor replaced by obvious worry. "Your Majesty, we have received additional reports from our border patrols." More human ships? Yes, sir. They have been spotted in 17 different sectors over the past week. Always alone, always observing our forces, always staying just outside weapon range. Emperor Zarthul stood and walked to his window. In the distance, he could see the lights of the Empire's capital city, home to billions of Zephyrian citizens. All of them depended on the Empire's strength to protect them. What are they doing out there? According to our intelligence analysis, they appear to be studying us. Each ship stays in position just long enough to scan our defenses, then moves to a new location. How many ships have we confirmed? General Morgath consulted his datapad. At least 30 different vessels, sir. But the disturbing part is that each one is different from the others. Emperor Zarthul turned from the window. Different how? Different designs, different weapon configurations, different energy signatures. It is as if they have dozens of different ship classes, each optimized for specific missions. The Emperor felt a chill run down his spine. The Zephyrian Empire used standardized ship designs across their entire fleet. It was more efficient and easier to maintain. But the humans seemed to approach warfare with endless variety and adaptation. Sir, General Morgath continued, there is something else. Our codebreakers have intercepted more human communications. What do they say? The messages are brief and military in nature, but the computer has managed to translate some key phrases. General Morgath activated a small holographic projector. Text appeared in the air, showing the translated human communications. Sector 7 Alpha, Zephyrian patrol pattern confirmed. Defensive capabilities cataloged. Moving to next observation point. Fleet assessment. Enemy ships show standard configuration. Recommend continued surveillance and data gathering. Strategic analysis. Zephyrian Empire shows signs of technological stagnation. Adaptation potential appears limited. Emperor Zarthul read through the messages with growing alarm. The casual, professional tone was what frightened him most. The humans were studying the Empire like scientists examining an interesting specimen. They are evaluating us, he said quietly, like we are just another species to be cataloged and categorized. Yes, Your Majesty. And based on these communications, they do not seem particularly impressed with what they have found. The Emperor walked back to his desk and sat down heavily. The chair had been carved from crystal by master artisans centuries ago. It was meant to symbolize the eternal power and beauty of the Zephyrian Empire. Now it felt fragile and temporary. General, what is the status of our military preparations? We have mobilized our entire fleet, sir. Over 10,000 ships are now on high alert. Our best commanders have been assigned to key defensive positions. And you believe this will be sufficient to defend the Empire? General Morgath hesitated before answering. Your Majesty, based on what we observed in the first encounter, our conventional tactics may not be effective against human forces. Explain. Their weapons ignore our shields, sir. Their ships move in ways that should be impossible. Their tactics are unlike anything we have encountered before. They fight with a ruthlessness that goes beyond normal military doctrine. Emperor Zarthul picked up Dr. Yilneth's report and flipped through it again. The pages were filled with analysis of human psychology, technology, and military capabilities. Every section painted the same picture. The Empire had encountered something far beyond their experience. Sir, General Morgath said carefully, I must ask, what are your orders if the humans attempt to invade our territory? The Emperor thought for a long moment. His entire life had been spent believing that the Zephyrian Empire was invincible. The idea of surrender or retreat was almost unthinkable, but the evidence was clear. The humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were something else entirely. Something that had turned warfare into a science and survival into an art form. Sir? General Morgath prompted. Before the Emperor could answer, an urgent chime sounded throughout the chamber. It was the signal for an emergency communication from the Imperial Fleet Command. Your Majesty, came the voice of Admiral Krixtal through the communication system. We have a situation developing in the Outer Rim. Report, the Emperor commanded. We have detected a massive human fleet approaching our territory. Sir, there are hundreds of ships. They are not trying to hide their approach. Emperor Zarthul felt his blood turn to ice.
How long until they reach our border?
At their current speed, approximately 6 hours, Your Majesty. Are they responding to communication attempts? Yes, sir. They have sent a message addressed directly to you. The Emperor exchanged glances with General Morgath. Play the message. The voice that filled the chamber was harsh and direct. speaking in accented but understandable Zephyrian. Emperor Zarthul of the Zephyrian Empire. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Nations Space Command. We have completed our initial assessment of your civilization. We wish to discuss terms for peaceful coexistence. We do not seek conflict with your people. However, we will not tolerate aggressive actions against human vessels or personnel. You have 48 hours to respond to this communication. If you choose not to respond, or if you respond with hostility, we will consider the Zephyrian Empire a threat to human interests and act accordingly. The message ended, leaving the chamber in silence. Your Majesty, General Morgath said quietly, "What are your orders?" Emperor Zarthul stood and walked to his window again. Below him, the capital city continued its daily activities, unaware that their entire way of life was about to change. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had been the ones who decided the fate of other species. They had been the conquerors, the rulers, the dominant force in the galaxy. Now, for the first time in their history, they were on the other side of that equation. They were the ones being evaluated and judged. They were the ones who had to prove their worth to survive. "Send a response to Admiral Chen," he said finally. "Tell her that the Zephyrian Empire accepts her offer of negotiations." "Yes, Your Majesty." "And General?" "Sir, stand down our fleet. If these humans wanted to destroy us, they would have done so already. The fact that they are offering to talk means we still have a chance." As General Morgath left to carry out his orders, Emperor Zarthul remained at his window, staring out at the stars. Somewhere in that darkness, a human fleet waited for his response. The age of Zephyrian dominance was over. The galaxy would never be the same again. But perhaps, if they were very careful and very lucky, the Empire might survive to see what came next. Far above the planet, aboard the human flagship, Admiral Sarah Chen sat in her command chair, sipping a cup of coffee while reviewing tactical reports. The beverage was a simple human tradition, but to any alien observer who understood its significance, it would be terrifying. The Admiral was calmly preparing for potential galactic warfare while enjoying a hot drink. It was the kind of casual competence that made humans the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we are receiving a response from the Zephyrian Emperor." "Put it through." The voice of Emperor Zarthul filled the bridge, speaking in careful, formal tones. "Admiral Chen, the Zephyrian Empire accepts your offer of negotiations. We wish to discuss terms for peaceful coexistence between our peoples." Admiral Chen smiled and took another sip of her coffee. "Excellent. Prepare a diplomatic shuttle. It looks like we have some talking to do." As the human fleet settled into a defensive formation around the Zephyrian homeworld, beings across the galaxy would soon learn a new truth. The age of humanity had begun.